Hey everyone, Bruce Eckfeldt here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so we can let you know when the next video is posted. You can also check us out at eckfeldt.com for more great content. With that, let's go check out the video.
Are you a CEO looking to scale your company faster and easier? Check out Thrive Roundtable. Thrive combines a moderated peer group mastermind, expert one-on-one coaching, access to proven growth tools, and a 24/7 support community. Created by Inc. award-winning CEO and certified scaling up business coach Bruce Eckfeldt, Thrive will help you grow your business more quickly and with less drama. For details on the program, visit eckfeldt.com/thrive. That's eckfeldt.com/thrive.
You're listening to Thinking Outside the Bud, where we speak with entrepreneurs, investors, thought leaders, researchers, advocates, and policymakers who are finding new and exciting ways for cannabis to positively impact business, society, and culture. And now, here is your host, business coach, Bruce Eckfeldt.
Welcome, everyone. This is Thinking Outside the Bud. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. And our guest today is Jeff Renwick, who is CEO of Cantab Therapeutics out of Toronto, Canada. And we're going to learn a little bit more about his background and about the company. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Bruce.
Yeah, so I always like to start these conversations with backgrounds. Curious what your professional background was or is, and then how you got into the cannabis space. Give us a sense.
Right, I'll give you a quick rundown on that. Basically, I'm from Saskatchewan. I'm Canadian. I ended up getting into the pharmaceutical business. My first career job, if you will, as a result of me being a hockey player in Germany. Instead of coming back to Canada in the summertime, I actually got a job working with a startup, call it a pharmaceutical trading company, who at the time, really, had the huge amount of growth. And I, being very young, I was all vested in, and I became very good friends with the family that actually run the business. Uh-huh. And as they grew their trading business, they got into trading and manufacturing and distribution of pharmaceuticals around the world. And I sort of grew up with the company a little bit there until they sold out to a larger company. And then I came back to Canada in 1999 and brought some of my pharma stuff back with me and fulfilled a sort of a long, standing commitment I had to myself to move back to Canada. And when I did, I brought all of the suppliers that I gained in Europe over here and started selling raw materials to some of the Canadian manufacturers.
Smart.
And that's how I got into the business.
Yeah. How long how long did you play hockey? What was the?
It was a very short stint. I mean, I played a little bit in Germany and a little bit in Norway. Yeah. With my uncle actually, who lived there. Yeah. And got tired of sort of not having any money, and that's when I got into the business.
Well, I think like so many professionals, there's this kind of combination of fortunate circumstances, need, hunger that get us in these different domains. So that was kind of the entree into the pharmaceutical world. So tell us about the cannabis stuff. How did cannabis end up? How did you get introduced to it, or what was the motivation to look specifically in the cannabis market?
Actually, what happened was about 4 years ago, my partner, Richard Goldstein, who's also the co-founder of Cantab, we were kind of waiting for an FDA approval on this drug that we developed for another generic company in the US. And we had the plant and we had, all the equipment and staff and everything. And we decided that, we didn't want to do another project because we would have had to refinance the company. Jeez. So we took on a really an interesting project from this a nutraceutical company that was using krill oil and oil from shrimp and omega oils, omega-3, 6s, and 9s. And they were producing these gel caps and this oil. And the idea was, and this came out about through our patent attorney, actually, that we've been working with. They wanted to try and improve the bioavailability of krill oil. So we decided, like we weren't doing anything and there really wasn't any other projects that we had in mind. So we kind of shifted over into the nutraceutical space and started working with this krill oil and shrimp oil, like derived from shells of shrimp coming out of the food processing industry. So they were sort of solving a problem by not using krill and then by also trying to, have a person better uptake the krill oil and being able to, give less krill oil or shrimp oil than previous. And by putting it in a hard pill form and making it extended release, we thought that maybe we could, have an improvement to like really a multi-billion-dollar industry. Omega oils are everywhere.
Yeah.
So we started in the company that we contracted from. Actually, during the process, ended up getting purchased by another company and left our project kind of on hold.
Yeah.
And while the project was on hold, I mean, this is like a real serendipitous story, really. One of the fellows that works with us, sister had cancer, and he was, I believe he was what they call the legal caregiver to his sister, because his sister was having him take the dried flowers and make oil for her, and doing it like in his kitchen or at home or whatever.
Yeah.
And he asked me if, and it was all like legal. He had a card, she had a card, everything was being purchased like from a legal source. If he could actually come and do this little rendering using some of the plant equipment on the weekend when nobody was around. So he did so, and I was watching him and I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. He's about to make a cookie or whatever he was going to do for her, right? Or take home like concentrates.
Yeah.
And I was like looking at the shrimp stuff and looking at this. I go, wait a minute, we can do something in terms of, taking this thing to the next level and putting it into a real dosage form. And that's sort of how I got into the business. I mean, it wasn't by intent. We didn't jump in, or it was like, really by serendipity, actually,
Yeah. I have this vision of, I don't know if you remember the commercials from Reese's peanut butter cups, where there's the chocolate maker and the peanut butter guy, and they have an accident and they get mushed together. And like, wait a minute, I think we discovered something.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And then, after several attempts and trials, we actually emerged one night about 3:00 in the morning with a tablet holding it high in the air,
Yeah. I love it. Well, so, and talk to me about this bioavailability stuff, because I'm not sure it comes up in various conversations, but I'm not sure people really appreciate why this is so important. So let's generally talk about bioavailability and then why this becomes important or, interesting from the cannabis space.
Yeah, right. You're going to actually hear a lot more now. Now that, especially in Canada, that we've had legalization, scientists and chemists and researchers are able to, do some, meaningful research legally on cannabis. So one of the major problems with cannabis, especially edible cannabis, I'm not talking about vaporized or smoked, is that your liver actually does its job and filters out, a lot of the, things that it deems to be, whatever harmful to your body, or it metabolizes in your liver.
Yeah.
And all of the oils and whatnot are basically metabolized, through your liver, your buccal cavity. So one of the, major goals of our company was to take that low bioavailability of the oils and try and make that into something a little bit more bioavailable and a little more consistent in terms of dosage. So with our tablet, what we do is we actually bypass the hepatic system in the liver and we drop it into your lower extremities, if you will, where the tablet can slowly erode over time and your body can uptake it a little bit better. So you may not need as much as like eating, say, a gummy bear. And, some of the other issues that are there is that oils are, they have fat in it and waxes and many different things, which, have a lot of medical benefit. But the stability and the shelf life on them is very poor. And they also convert into other cannabinoids as, the shelf life goes. So we believe that in the tablet form, the cannabinoids are stabilized and they're not going to convert, and you'll have less, degradation, and the stability of the product will be much better on top of the bioavailability.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not sure people really appreciate that, just from a kind of a physiology point of view, that the big difference or how you ingest the product ends up having a huge impact on its effect on you, and inhaling or vaping, through the lung system, it has a certain mechanism or delivers it in a certain way, but ingesting it, it ends up being digested. It ends up going through digestive system in your liver, and both the effectiveness or the impact will vary. Also, the thing that I've learned to appreciate is, you end up having more variability. People's digestive systems and, their bodies will process that differently. So you could actually have the same dose, the same ingestion, but actually have very different results based on people's chemistries and how their body works. So this idea of having the tab, I actually hadn't appreciated the whole shelf life aspect, which is really interesting with the oils, that they do degrade. I mean, things are moving fast enough that things are kind of flying off the shelves right now. But in terms of, as we move into, really developing, supply chains, product chains, inventories, and people having to kind of manage inventories for periods of time and production processes, this is going to become more and more of an issue for folks, it seems.
No, it is. And then we've also been, doing a lot of research in terms of the terpenes that are used alongside cannabis. And one of the major issues that are with edible cannabis is when you do process in order to convert the cannabis into a more bioavailable form, you have to heat it. And when you heat it, you often reduce you burn off the terpenes in there. And we've heard a lot of talk about terpenes through, many different sources. And we actually truly believe that terpenes are part of what they call the entourage effect in the cannabis. So with our tablet process, we're able to still decarboxylize the cannabis oil and, utilize the cannabinoids and all that. But we're able to add back in the terpenes that have been previously extracted from the oil prior to decarboxylation because they don't need to be decarboxylized. So we're actually stepping our clinical research into the cannabinoids beyond THC and THCA and THC and CBD and CBDA into include other terpenes such as myrcene and not. So it's really getting interesting now to be able to do those things and go beyond the raw oil or the resin type of stuff mixed in with triglyceride in order to make it into a dosage form.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know if you're down at the MJ BizCon down in Vegas, but it was there was a lot of exhibitors talking about the terpenes and some great displays and stuff about showing the different, but both kind of aesthetic qualities, the taste and the smell and how it affects the kind of palate aspect of of the products, but then also this entourage effect of that some of these actually will adjust or enhance, change the characteristics of the sort of the effect on you in terms of the pharmaceutical portion of it. But interesting. And so talk to us a little bit more about the actual tab technology. Like what are you? What is the actual technology that you've been developing that allows you to put it into this tab format, and why is it kind of interesting or unique for you?
Right. So it's a combination of a number of things. Like, starting off at the oil stage, really we're able to make what we call a nano emulsion, or basically it can emulsify the cannabis oil into a blend of excipients that allow that to stay separated and not reform back again like typical oil does. Like if you take some of the oil that's available in the marketplace now in either capsule form or in a liquid tincture, or or the oil mixed together with olive oil, or they use
kind of base,
or they have coconut is very popular and all that. Those oils, if you put it, take that and put it in a glass of water, you'll see that it'll, stir it, give it a good stir, and it'll all end up back in a dollop together at the top of the water. But with our technology, we can actually, put it into that granulation that we have, and then put it in the water and stir it, and it'll stay separated. So this is like what egg does in mayonnaise. Kind of helps. Kind of, I guess. Probably all different kinds of things you can compare it to. But I mean, this is pharmaceutical technology. It's been around for, a while.
Yeah.
And, we converted it into a sort of a cannabis scenario. And then that was really the beginning. And then once we had those granules and we're able to, have a product that has like a real content uniformity where there isn't more oil on one side of the mix than the other side, then we're able to really take that and put it into like what we call a matrix technology for tablets, where we could do a number of things. We could make it instant release. We could make it extended release. We could make it like a flash melt type of tablet where you put it in your mouth and it melts, so you go in your buccal cavity. So we tried to cover off, a number of different problems, like with oral dosages. Like some people's liver might not be good. Other people might want a long-term solution. Some people might want an instant solution. So with our product range, using that technology, we're able to develop a whole line of oral, solid oral dosages.
And so now, from the business model point of view, are you licensing the technology? Are you actually producing on behalf of folks? Are you developing your own brands? Like, how are you approaching the market?
Right. So what we're doing is we're trying to line ourselves up together with Well, first of all, we're not a licensed producer in terms of growing. We have an application in with Health Canada to be a non-growing licensed producer,
Okay.
Which will allow us to get either dried flowers or oil from a licensed producer.
Uh-huh.
But we're trying to align ourselves together with a licensed producer that also has distribution. So we've done one deal for one of our product lines with a company called Emblem, and they're a Canadian LP with a good amount of customers and growing.
No, we know them. Yeah.
Right. So then we've also we're in sort of discussions with other companies for the rest of our product line, and we've set up an agreement with FSD Pharma or FV Pharma out in Coburg to build a 10,000 square foot facility inside of their licensed facility in order to manufacture and distribute worldwide from there.
Oh, interesting. So tell us about how you're approaching that market. So, Canada is kind of the poster child right now in terms of, developing national markets, but there's a lot going on internationally. How is the international, give me a sense of your priorities in terms of the Canadian market, the international market. Are there parts of the international market that are most interesting for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we have, over the last 4 or 5 months, we've been inundated with leads from Thailand, from all these countries that are now coming into the legal scenario. But we've already actually stepped out and we've actually written a deal up with a Mexican company that is going to distribute our tablets once we get the approval in Canada. The key thing is getting the approval by Health Canada, because once we have that approval, then we're legally allowed to export the tablets anywhere that is legal. For example, we have an arrangement with Australia already where we're going to manufacture the tablets here in Canada, and they're going to distribute them in Australia. But they can't actually start distributing or bring anything in until Health Canada allows it as a dosage form here in Canada. So right now, the main focus of the company is to get the product into Health Canada, get approved by Health Canada, and then once we have that approval, then we can apply for export permits and whatnot to several jurisdictions. And one of them is Australia. Another one is Mexico. I mean, Germany's obviously an attractive market for many companies. And, the list goes on. I mean, the key thing is getting the Health Canada approval, because they won't allow the export of a product.
Oh, interesting. I guess I hadn't appreciated that in order to successfully and this is because your product actually has THC in it. So in order to be able to legally export it, you have to be approved by the Canadian government first. Even if these other places have legalized, use and sale of product.
Yeah.
In order to be a producer internationally, you have to do that. So once you get that, then you'll be able to open the market. I guess how have you found in terms of developing business on an international level? Like what's your experience been like? Any learnings that you'd be willing to share with other folks that are looking to market products on an international basis? Well,
I think really, I mean, a lot of the focus of some of the foreign governments, especially the German government, and also the Australian government, who really I have some personal experience with, is that they want cannabis in there, but they also want a certain amount of quality control involved, right? And for them, a government, when they say quality control, it's a health product. They look to their drug division, or in this case, Health Canada. In Germany, it's the German, and then in Australia they have the EMA and all that. So they need to sort of link together between those two things of, being cannabis and also having some form of testing and some form of consistency and something that they can actually, limit their liability on, right?
Yeah, they need to know it's kind of health and safety of their population. They're not going to putting something into the market that's going to do harm or be blatantly not effective. Yeah.
Right. So they're really looking over at the pharma grade type regulations and saying, okay, if they can incorporate some of that stuff into the Cannabis Act, then they'll have, something that they're willing to endorse, right? And you'll see some of the companies that have been Canadian companies anyway that are exporting to Germany, even the dried flowers. I mean, these are companies that qualified with good manufacturing practices and, have a lot of, any kind of certification available that they can really, dig into and feel that they're importing a product that's not going to cause any harm to anybody.
Yeah. And do you think that's the kind of the way this industry is going to go, is end up adopting either the pharmaceutical policies, procedures, kind of regulation process, or some similar type of level type of process? Or do you think that some countries are going to bifurcate this and treat them somewhat separately?
I think they're going to really lean towards more higher regulated pharma style regulations and procedures. And it's, not going to be like a agricultural product that can be shipped based on, one simple test or something like that.
Yeah.
They're going to have a whole regime. And, Germany's already came out and said that they want a real strict regime on their internal growing policies. And that's why they haven't got around that yet. And they're actually importing product from everywhere else,
Yeah, no, exactly. That they decided that they have to go outside to find the level that they really desire internally. So talk to me a little bit about how kind of, I guess, the challenges and learnings that you've had in terms of building up this business in Canada. I mean, here in the U.S., we've got this crazy system of, federally illegal and state by state, kind of regulation. What have you sort of learned, I guess, transferring from the pharmaceutical space into this space? What are some of the kind of takeaways you've had from a business point of view?
Well, I don't think I've ever been in a business where everybody's so nice. I'll say that. I mean, it's like everybody's nice. The regulators are nice. Everybody's very positive. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of interest. So I'd lucky to be in a sort of a greenfield business. It's growing where everybody is enthusiastic and, there's competition, but it's not, cutthroat competition. Yeah. Everybody has a build out to do. Everybody has a business to build. The financiers are interested. Consumers are interested. So it's pretty exciting times. I can't really compare anything I've ever done to being in a space like this. I mean, I've been in the pharma business where, I'm on the R&D side and I never even know what's going on the sales side where, in this business, you're seeing something, evolve from really nothing, into something that's going to be huge,
Yeah. Do you say that thinking that it might change, or do you think that this is just the nature of this industry, or is it because where the industry is, but things will become more competitive, more cutthroat over time?
Yeah, I'm guessing, it's going to become, I would say, a game of big players eventually. I mean, This is going to compare to maybe the alcohol or cigarette type industry with, maybe a little bit more artisan type flair to it. Uh-huh. But yeah, you're going to definitely see, money flowing in, and that money is going to be utilized, and then they're going to capture market share. Then the other guys are going to want it back, and you'll see some interesting times, I'm sure, especially in the concentrates more than say the smoking aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly kind of the product innovation, product development, and all these, moving away from just kind of flour, even kind of the extracts, but whether it's, I think this whole kind of wellness area and the incorporating into all sorts of different products around, nutrition and stuff like that is really fascinating. There's a lot of, I think, opportunities for innovation and new product development in those space. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
No, it's true. Actually, and it's really our belief that the whole CBD market probably,
exactly.
The hemp industry is going to surpass pretty much anything we've seen up to now.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems, the technology that you've developed would work for any one of those, delivering any one of those products, if I understand you correctly.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, the company is, we're about ready to finalize, and we've already done it, but, we've secured a supply of organic hemp from a Canadian hemp farmer for not only the 2018 crop that just came off, but, we're also taking the off-coming crops in the next year and probably beyond. So we truly believe the health and wellness. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be taking, CBD supplements, and there's going to be CBD in, various skin creams and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, it's our belief that, this once a day type thing and, the whole once a day in a tablet form stuff, really, we can, equate that into a real revenue stream that is going to be reoccurring every month, almost like a telecom customer, a cable customer, if you will,
Yeah, recurring revenue stream. That's the valuation mecca here, if we can get to that point. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the business in terms of, just challenges of growing a business in this industry right now. Things like talent, things like capital, how have some of that part of growing the business, how have they been doing? Any challenges or insights that you've seen there?
Well, luckily for Cantab, all the staff that we have, I've been working together with these guys for the last 15 years in different projects and different pharmaceutical aspects. So I didn't really have to go out and source out talent. But from what I understand, there's a huge lack of testing people and analytical people. And, there's a lot of people that are required to take this business to the next level. So I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. You're going to lose a lot of pharma people to the cannabis space, but then, that's fine. That's the evolution, and cannabis is going to take market share away from some of the pharma stuff.
Yep.
And in terms of capital, they're obviously capital poured into the cannabis space.
Yeah.
It kind of slowed down a little bit last year, but I believe access to capital is not going to be as easy as it was a year ago. But for viable projects and for companies that are structured properly, I think there's no problem at all to raise enough capital to get their business to the next level.
Yeah. I think that's true. And obviously in the U.S. here, we're handcuffed because of a lot of this regulation stuff and the federal issues. But it does.
It's a huge influx of American companies coming up to Canada, and listing on the Canadian Stock Exchange, the CSE, in order to get funding and going down and running their business in the States and being very, very, very successful. I've talked to quite a few people now, and my eyes really opened up to what retail distribution, like in a scenario like Colorado, can mean to a lot of companies. I spoke with one fellow. All he did was make gummy bears, and he was turning over $1 million a week out of his little small shop.
Yeah, not an uncommon story.
Yeah,
we'll see. It's maturing, and people are starting to. Competition is starting to kind of come in, and the markets are maturing as well. But huge opportunity. And but I think to your story originally, I think the best examples or the most successful examples I've seen are people that take what they've done very well in other industries and just pivot and apply it to the cannabis space. So rather than going in and starting a dispensary or setting up a grow, is you take your marketing, or you take your pharmaceutical, or you take your packaging, whatever those things are that really well, and just apply it to the cannabis space. Those end up being really successful businesses.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So for people that are out there, in different industries thinking about getting into the cannabis space, any particular areas, if you were going to start a new business or, start a new venture in the cannabis space that you think is particularly, problems that need to be solved, areas that need solutions, that need kind of innovation and talent, anything that you've seen in the space that is ripe for new ventures?
I could go through a list, I guess.
Top two or three.
Well, the top one I seen was the packaging people.
Yeah.
It was a lack of packaging that was approved by the government, or a lack of companies that understood the regulations that made available packaging materials that were acceptable. So, I actually know one fellow that kind of got into it, and he's been very successful, and, he started this packaging business. I have another fellow he's specializing in trying to get into the bonded shipping of finished products or raw materials or whatever, but he's started a separate business as being a licensed courier, and found himself a real niche.
Yeah. And these niches are phenomenal in this growing industry. It's just there's 1,000 of them. I think people kind of keep coming into the space and saying, oh well, everyone's kind of captured the available business opportunities already, and they're just scaling. It's like, no, there's still thousands of them out there to be made.
Yeah, and there's the guys going. I met one fellow that had a system of growing containers for a licensed producer that were all electronically connected, and it would only water the plants that needed it when the moisture content got to a certain level.
Exactly.
But he just used it for cannabis. That business came out of an Israeli agriculture company that was actually putting these probes in the ground in their irrigated land, right? And the guy was very smart and just transferred the already successful technology into the cannabis space, and I think he's really done well.
Yeah.
So you have to have an open mind. You have to think about it, but there's a lot of things going on now and being created from new.
Yeah.
And people converting from one business to another that really, like you said before, they're bringing their specialized skills into the cannabis space.
Yeah. Good. We're going to hit time here. This has been fascinating. Jeff, if people want to find out more about you, about Cantab, what's the best way to get that information?
Well, we have a website. It's cantab.ca. Anybody can email me anytime they want with questions. My email's jeff@cantab.ca. And, basic Googling, we have a little bit of ink on the internet now. So any more you want to find out, our symbol's PIL on the Canadian Stock Exchange.
Awesome.
PIL.
I'll make sure all of those, that information and those links are in the show notes so people can click through and get them. Jeff, this has been a pleasure. Great conversation. I've learned a lot. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. I look forward to talking to you again.
You've been listening to Thinking Outside the Bud with business coach Bruce Eckfeldt. To find a full list of podcast episodes, download the tools and worksheets, and access other great content, visit the website at thinkingoutsidethebud.com. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at thinkingoutsidethebud.com/newsletter.